Got a very interesting topic today with a very interesting guest. I'm joined again by Navy veteran and founder of the Xingle Company, Patrick Reveron. Patrick, how are you today? Whoops. No, wait a minute.
Good. Thanks for having me, Jason. Yeah, happy to be here once again. So thank you.
Now, Patrick, you have been up to something really interesting. Unlike Donald Trump, you are not remodeling your house with a forklift or whatever he was doing over there. Did
Yeah.
you see that? Crushing half the White House?
Yeah. I did. Yeah.
That's really something. People were going nuts, but I think he said he's paying for it, right? I mean, it is still the White House to crush it up with I don't even know what you would call that tool, but they're building that big ballroom that he's playing. I think it's actually kind of cool because now, years from now, you'll have the Trump ballroom at the White House, and it's sort of like, suck it, Democrats. He's the president, and there's going to
Yeah.
be a Trump ballroom.
Yeah. It's to me, it's just like the Lincoln bedroom.
Right.
I think Lincoln built that, using Civil War bonds that got inflated in value. So I think that's why his bedroom's so nice. But um,
Ah.
yeah, I mean, as long as it's not taxpayer money, which it's not, so I don't care. I'm like, spend $1 billion if you want, as long as it's not my money. So
Yeah, maybe they should name it the Trump Baller Room and just make it
yeah,
put it one over the top.
yeah,
Here,
yeah.
somebody had this pretty good video of it, Patrick, where I guess they've enhanced it a little bit with AI. They're
Oh
doing
my
some
God.
construction, dumping people out of there.
Oh my
Obviously, we don't
God.
advocate doing anything to injure people, but I do want to let people know we're going to have a sponsor exclusive on this. People are going to be able to join us for that by going to substack.com/at Xingle Company, and that is with an X. Patrick, you've been doing a really interesting investigation. This is sort of a deep dive. This is right in your wheelhouse, if I may borrow a Navy term there. But you've been looking at this New Jersey drone phenomenon from the standpoint of government contracts. Well, actually, really, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is more like the subcontracts to equipment that you have determined had to have been used to operate these drones, right?
Yeah. So it really all started with this New York Post story that came out this week. The New York Post had this writer who went to the Fort Rucker UAS. Fort Rucker is an Army base in Alabama, for those who don't know. But they do this big symposium for advanced aircraft, for drones, submersibles, unmanned, manned aircraft, all of these different types of avionics and groundbreaking technology. So the New York Post ran a story where one of their guys, and that was him, Shane Galvin, he took a picture of these highly advanced drones and then he claimed that one of the contractors from an anonymous contractor said to him, "Hey, you remember those drones in New Jersey last year? Well, that was us." So that kind of sparked my curiosity. And then Diligent Denizen posted about it on his X, and I quote tweeted him and I said, "I'll find the government contract data on this and I'll get back to you," which he hasn't reached back out. But so I did. I found all this contract data that coincides with these U.S. Navy drone sightings that fit the description of the New Jersey drones. And I also found these contracts for unmanned aircraft that were fulfilled in 2024, only a few weeks before the first sighting of the
Hmm.
drones in October of 2024 in Morristown, New Jersey.
Now, wait a minute. Before you go into the whole thing, I want to make sure people know you've got a really comprehensive report you've posted here on your Substack. People can get to that on substack.com/at Xingle Company, excuse me, and we're going to be talking about it in depth during the sponsor exclusive segment. But I have a question for you, Patrick. I mean, isn't it a little bit stupid? Isn't this guy sort of bad at being
That we'll talk about in length that I left out of the report for the most part. Don't want to get sued, but who I think it is. But I think it's a very human reaction You have this New York Post reporter. He gets special access from the brass at the base, who have to give special approval of who's allowed to come on the base for this symposium. And a guy from the New York Post, you're like, oh, you're cleared to be here. I'm cleared to be here. Yeah, that was us, dude. Like it's a very male, performative male
Yeah.
thing that we do, It's like, yeah, dude, like this is badass. Like, look what I did. Look what I'm a part of.
Right.
And
No,
when you
you're
work for
right.
these secret companies, you're not allowed to talk about it outside of maybe a top secret Fort Rucker, Alabama aerospace symposium where everybody is cleared to be there. So no harm, no foul. And then you see
Right.
your your picture on the New York Post 2 months later. So
But no, wait a minute. So when you were in the Navy, I mean, this is sort of how it happens, right? Somebody says something and it's like, whoops, you shouldn't have done that. I mean, it's not necessarily some kind of like sinister espionage plot. It's like this guy's just at the air show or whatever, and right?
yeah, yeah, precisely. It wasn't. I mean, I like the New York Post. Sometimes I'll defend them, sometimes I won't. But in this case, I'll defend them. I mean, it's pretty innocuous to me. It's just a reporter. He's like, "Hey, what's this? Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you work on this? Yeah, the New Jersey drones were us, man." Like, it's very innocuous to me. It's just very conversational. It's
Is
not
this the
some
fort here?
big expose. It's just a quote with some
Yeah.
pictures. But
Now, is this the fort? How do we tell when we're on the fort?
um, are you talking about the picture from the New York Post there?
Well, this is Google Earth, and I put in Fort Rucker, Alabama, but it's sort of this whole town, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a Fort Rucker
Here,
Army
Army
base.
Aviation
Yeah,
Museum
yeah, Army
Foundation.
Aviation. Yeah,
It looks like it's a
and
big
they
thing.
yes, it's a pretty big base, and they have a whole proving ground there, because Huntsville, Alabama, which is pretty close to Fort Rucker, you have NASA, you have Army Intelligence, you have Navy Intelligence, you have National Reconnaissance Office, you have HSI, you have National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, you have CISIA. Um, that's why Trump, I don't know if you remember, Jason, but Trump was talking about moving the FBI headquarters from
Right.
Quantico, Virginia to Huntsville, Alabama, particularly for this reason. Um,
Interesting.
and Huntsville,
Have you
Alabama is
ever
oh, sorry, go ahead.
have you ever been over there?
I have, yes. I was
Huh.
there in 2021. Um, And,
Interesting.
Huntsville, Alabama is the entire reason that I started my company. Um, I won't say what company he works for. I won't say what branch. Well, I guess you can narrow it down, but he was a general that I spoke to on the phone. And I was cold calling him, trying to offer him government contract consulting services. And he has a very high position at a multi-billion-dollar defense contractor. He's a retired general, and he gave me a lot of attitude. So I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to stand my ground on the phone. So I started dishing out my knowledge about government contracting, and he's like, all right, I'm listening. And I tell him I'm in the Navy. He says he's a retired general. He's one of the heads of these defense contractors. And, he's asking me, why are you working for these people? You know too much. You need to go do your own thing.
Hmm.
So then I started Xingle Company. I left that job, and all because of that general that I spoke to on the phone for 2 hours about
Wow.
government contracting and procurement. So,
That's pretty good
uh,
though, Patrick. I mean, this guy had no reason. It's not like it's your mom telling you you should start your
yeah,
own company.
yeah,
This is some
yeah,
guy who started out
yeah.
adversarial and then you won him over on the phone. So that's really quite interesting. There's a lot of people in the chat saying that they knew that this was US government drones. I mean, it's the thing that's so crazy about it is, everybody was up in arms like, oh, it's aliens or China or something. And then here we have this guy with like his gut hanging out telling everybody, yeah, that was us. And it looks a little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, not to be critical, but it looks a little bit low tech, doesn't it? It's like the biplane show or something.
Yeah, the only thing that threw me off was the colors. That kind of coyote brown and the black and the
Hmm.
tan that's on that craft.
Hmm.
Um, Also the quad structure and that in the middle, it almost looks like it has a cockpit that's covered. And we'll
Right.
we'll get into that in the sponsor exclusive because I did find something pretty scathing.
Wow.
But at this air show, they actually flew and tested a manned version of this drone.
Huh.
So that is a manned, I guess you can't even really call it a drone. It's a
Personed.
manned aircraft. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
um
You also can't be sexist. It's got to be piloted now. It's no longer
yeah,
manned
finally.
aircraft.
Yeah, sorry.
Because
Yeah.
it could be a transgender flying that, Patrick.
Yeah,
You don't know.
yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Got to
another
be
uh another
open-minded.
drop in the bucket for my cancellation.
No, but joking aside, I
Yeah.
mean, it does seem like you've gotten to some important information here. And obviously, look, I'm not an aviation expert, but we have seen these kind of, what do they call it? Variable wing geometry type aircraft where it looks like this thing could do a vertical takeoff with this wing or this airfoil or whatever it is pointed in the air, and then it swivels it and it can have sort of more endurance by using the lift of a wing of a fixed wing style aircraft. It was interesting. I know, you and I were discussing my second favorite person was on Joe Rogan last week talking
Yes, he
about this
was.
very topic. And we're not talking about Bob Dabalina, it's Palmer Luckey. And he was saying, oh, they were speculating about what it could be because he said it has a lot of endurance and these types of drones fly for 20 or 30 minutes. But I don't think that's necessarily correct because this thing could be gas powered, hybrid powered, anything like that. And with this type of variable wing, it could have quite a lot of endurance.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll get into that a little bit more like Anduril. And I guess part of my hypothesis with this whole thing, I'll cover it briefly here, but we'll get in depth on the sponsor exclusive. But um, the U.S. military, specifically DARPA, and the DoD, and we've talked about this a little bit, Jason. With the Invention Act of 1954, I think it was.
Invention
Um,
Secrecy Act, yeah.
Invention secrecy, yeah. So there is a program called the SBIR program, which is the Small Business Innovation Research Program. Now, that program is specifically carried out by, the Air Force, by DARPA, by DIA, and what it does is it targets these startups, like Anduril, which was a part of the SBIR program, and they get all of this government money through grants in order to fund this research of their startup. And usually it's for something that's on the cutting edge, like AI or virtual reality or drones or unmanned aircraft. And Palmer Luckey and Anduril were a huge, huge benefactor of the SBIR program. And then
That's
you also have
interesting.
the STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer. So that's
Wow.
just another caveat to this larger umbrella of programs administered by the SBA, but perpetuated really by DARPA.
Wow. A lot of
Yeah.
people have questions about this, Patrick, because particularly Charles Ortel, who really knows. He's got an unusual nexus of knowledge in terms of investing and national security. I mean, to my knowledge, Charles is not involved in national security, but, he's been on the show for 9 years and he's very interested in this stuff. And he certainly knows a lot about investing. He really objects to DARPA and what's the other one? InQtel. He doesn't like that
Yeah.
because he's saying that it's like, the government shouldn't be investing in this stuff. And also, we observe allegedly things like Twitter and Google getting taken over by the government or the FBI or whatever. And it's like, at what point do we actually have capitalism and open markets if you have things like this that are, giving billions of dollars to whoever is making these drones and whatever. I mean, I keep coming back to this joke, but this is, you would expect with some high-tech drone that had half the world thinking it was aliens and China that this is literally like, Joey Donuts got off from the Nathan's hot dog eating. Joey Walnut got off from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and now he's at the drone contest. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah. And those are, some of the unlikeliest benefactors of, DARPA programs or, CIA seed funds. I've seen contractors in every single shape and size, whether at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, Avon Park, Florida, San Diego, California. There's some with face tattoos. There's some who can't walk up a flight of stairs. Yeah, so I mean, they come in every shape and size, and
Wow.
for all we know, he could be a retired Special Forces, general. So,
Right. Yeah, I don't mean to
I
make fun of the guy. I mean,
no,
we don't
no,
even
you're good.
know. You could take that
Yeah,
picture before the event opened or anything like that. But I mean, I
no.
guess what you're saying makes sense. They don't care. It's not a boardroom. If you have the technology, you qualify.
Exactly. As long as your books are good, you don't owe money to the IRS, you don't have any liens, anything like that, you should qualify for the SBIR, especially if the government has a vested interest in what you're doing, such as AI, drones, and VR.
Wow. Now, remind us, Patrick, what your role was on the USS Carl Vinson.
So I was a damage controlman, petty officer second class. Um, so I had a very, very unique experience on board the Carl Vinson. I was in and out of rates, so I was with base security. I got TAD to the MAs, the Master at Arms, which is military police. I got to do investigations with NCIS. I got to do investigations on the command. I got to arrest people. I got to go into intelligence spaces. I got to go into top secret reactor facilities. Um, and I never really worked in my rate other than my first year in the Navy. Um, and I was teaching classes to admirals about gas-free engineering and confined spaces and shipyard safety and uh, telling them how to wear their hard hats. And um, I had a very, very unique experience in the U.S. Navy, especially for my rate. Um, it was, yeah, because people would always, I would have khakis, I would have captains, I would have admirals, I would have chiefs who were like, who is this guy? Who is this second class who is allowed to, be in our meeting and I would just be everywhere. I would be like this fly on the wall. And then it really got strange when I got to do the ops intel briefs. And when I got to do these ops intel briefs, I was the only lower enlisted which the next closest rank in those ops intel briefs was actually a master chief, and then next closest to him was the command master chief. So I was briefing a one-star admiral, a couple of captains, plenty of commanders, O4s about Chinese ship movements and OSINT report or SIGINT reports and what fishing boats are in the South Pacific right now and what Russia submarines are doing. Um, yeah, so it was just a really, when I tell people this, they're like, oh, you were in the DC, like you were a spook or you were a secret squirrel. And I'm like, no, dude, like I don't think my department liked me. I was eligible for a top secret clearance. I was trying to get out of the rate and
When
I
you
just
say
took every
rate,
opportunity.
what does that mean, rate? People who don't know the military.
Oh yeah, sorry. So like the Marine Corps and the Army, they have MOSs, and the U.S. Navy and the Coast Guard have rates. So like when I tell people I was a DC 2, DC is like my MOS, and 2 is my rank. So that signifies that I was a damage controlman, petty officer second class. Um, does that make sense? Yeah.
Military occupational specialty. So, why did you leave the Navy, Patrick? It seems like you could have had quite a career advancing there.
I yeah, so my PRD and my EAOS was October of 2021. That's when I was supposed to get out or change duty stations. And I was on deployment and it was, I believe it was August or September, and my detailer, some chief in Millington, Tennessee, he never emailed me back. He never talked to me, nothing. I put in all these requests to go to Singapore, to go to Rhode Island, to go to Hawaii for my next duty station. So I'm on deployment. We hardly have any internet connection. And I get an email 2 weeks before I'm supposed to rotate or get out. And he says, "Hey, you're going to go be a drill instructor at RTC Great Lakes." And I was like, oh shit, man. I was like, that was the last thing I wanted. I said, I
Why?
have a good conduct. I have 4 NAMs. I have 2 warfare devices. I have an expeditionary ribbon. I have all of these accolades. Really, I mean, I had a very stellar and decorated naval service. Um, and he couldn't do anything for me. He said, nope, this is what you're getting. This is it. And he said, take it or leave it. And I said, all right, I'm going to leave it. So then I went to active reserves for 3 years. And that was all she wrote. And I took the test for E6 in September, right before I was supposed to rotate or get out. Because in the Navy, we actually take our exam to advance into the next rate, or we can get meritoriously promoted. Um, and I was meritoriously promoted to second class, E5. I took the test for E6, and I never really found out if I made it or not. I had khakis in my chain of command. They said, "You're going to be the next Master Chief of the Navy one day." Um, and so
But I guess like any
it's
career where you spend time
yeah,
there and you feel unappreciated, you get frustrated, and you're a young guy, you got to move on, and you can't waste your life in a career that's not advancing you.
yeah, and I regret it. I mean, I do, but
You
I don't
shouldn't
have any
regret it.
regrets about my service. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, don't regret it. I mean, I know what you mean. You're having second thoughts, but don't regret it. I don't think you should do that. It's interesting what you've found on this, and we're just a few minutes away. We're going to make our way over to the sponsor exclusive segment and really dig into this report that you've written. People can get to that by going to substack.com/at Xingle Company. It's a detailed report. I read it last night, and I definitely have questions and want to go through it with you. It's really the type of research that somebody who doesn't have your experience, I just don't think you'd be able to do it, And that's what's interesting about it, is that this is like so right directly in your area of expertise that it makes sense that you've sort of gone to these. It just makes sense when people see what you're going to tell us, the different equipment that you've identified and the companies and everything, and then now you're telling us there's some surprise there. I'll be excited to hear that. So people are going to be able to join us, of course, also on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. People who follow me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribe there will get it as well. But it's important that people visit substack.com/@Xingle Company. Don't forget to follow Patrick on X at Xingle CEO. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Stay with us. We're going to dive into this report. Patrick has got explosive new information about the New Jersey drone mystery. Don't go away. We will be right